So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to our program here at the Bhakti School. It's an especially cold day that you guys had to fight through, battle through. I just heard Owen come to the door and she's like sniffling and like I'm like, I mean the gift that she gets to come and is to see my face for like an hour. I'm like, that's not a very good gift. But Owen's very sweet. So so it really touches me that you all came to this center where we can all kind of make spiritual progress. And when I'm cold, I just want to transport you to somewhere else out of New York City. So when I was a kid growing up in Ohio, and all my friends used to go to Florida, and I'd never really gone to the beach much. And because Ohio, where's the closest beach? Maybe Chicago, on the lake. But to see the ocean, so my father said, let us go to the beach one time. So we went to the beach, and it was my first time actually seeing the ocean properly. And many people actually went to the ocean, and this is an ocean just to, if you haven't seen one. Anybody from Brighton Beach? Brighton Beach, you've seen an ocean. So the beach is warm, and there are people there having a good time. People, ice cream and cold treats are kind of readily available. But when I went to the beach, the first thing I saw was seeing something so vast. Just seeing something go out for miles and miles and miles, and you can almost see everything. There's this me who is this little insignificant little kid, and I'm looking out to something so vast and profound that I have not even had any experience with before. And it's almost an unlimited amount of water. And then you look at your life, and then you start thinking, I'm actually so small. I'm so insignificant compared to this great big ocean that goes for miles and miles. I live for maybe 100 years. What is that in cosmic time? Cosmic time, that's a blip in history. But so in that way, when I first looked at the ocean, I just thought my problems aren't as big as what I make them out to be. I mean, what really matters? Like, little Jimmy on the bus stop told me that. What would he tell me? He would my head looked weird, I'm like, okay, maybe my head does kind of look weird. Actually, I hurt my head this week. I didn't get in a fight or anything, but maybe my head looks weird. But what does it make any difference in the whole grand scheme of things? And I was just thinking, this ocean will still be here. This ocean was here before I came into existence, and this ocean was here after I leave, and many generations of my family will leave. This ocean will still be here. And when I just used to look at the ocean, I used to say, this actually was a great reset for my life. So when you kind of look at the ocean, next time you go to an ocean, just look at the vastness of the ocean. Just go look until you can't really look anymore. And then later, when I started taking to this process of Krishna consciousness, or the path of yoga, and more specifically the path of bhakti-yoga, I was reminded of my experience of the ocean when someone actually said these books of wisdom literatures, as the Bhagavad-gita, are like an ocean. These books are wisdom, and they're as deep as an ocean. I was thinking, wow, if it's as deep as an ocean, how deep must it actually be? And these books similarly has how the ocean, when I first saw the ocean, it reset my life. And then these books had a very profound way of resetting my life again when I came in interaction with it. So I just want to just make it kind of interactive. Does anybody have any anxieties or worries? Raise your hand. Okay, is it just me? It's everybody. Anybody have an anxiety that they want to share? Except the weather. Except the weather. Michael.
I got anxiety being here right now.
You got anxiety being here?
Yeah.
I hope I don't make you more anxious. I called on you. I told you to raise your hand, Robert.
I have anxiety of being in the ocean by myself.
All alone for thousands and thousands of miles. Nobody. You know, there's like a place called Point Nemo. Have you heard of this? I don't want to make you more anxious. I was sorry. This will probably make you more anxious. There's a place on Earth called Point Nemo, and at Point Nemo, it's basically between Australia and Hawaii, like a little bit left and a little bit right. And at that point, if your ship loses contact with any other point, and you lost radio contact, if you get stuck, the closest people to you are people in space, rather than people on Earth. That's how far you are away from Earth. So don't go there. It's giving me anxiety thinking about it. So I saw a bumper sticker one time. I like to, this is a hobby of mine. I when I'm in a car, which is not much in New York City anymore, I just look at bumper stickers. And the bumper sticker said, "Do not disturb, already disturbed." And this reminded me of a verse from Bhagavad-gita. It says, "Chintam aprimeyam cha pralayantam upashrita kamopaboga parama etavaditi nishchita." Chintam aprimeyam cha. It says, basically this is from the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. And Krishna is saying, if your desires are endless, and what is the turn of our desires being endless? Our anxieties are also endless. And so similarly, our desires are like the ocean. If they're endless, what is an ocean? An ocean is endless. In the sense that, can you ever stop a wave? You can't stop a wave. And if our desires are like that, and if we just keep fulfilling those desires, actually our anxieties will also be endless. And so similarly, in the next few verses, Krishna goes on to say in the next chapter, he says that if you take shelter of these literatures and you take shelter of this divine process of yoga, then our desires will calm down. But it's a process. It's definitely a process. There are two types of people who get into spirituality. One type of person says, I have to be super, super qualified to start spiritual life. I gotta stop this, I gotta stop that. And another person says, let me get all my desires out of the way, and then I'll start my spiritual life. Some people, when I joined as a monk, I'm 24 now. I'm 24 years old. So I just turned 24. So if some people said, why are you joining? Why do you think spirituality so seriously? Krishna says that actually the goal of spirituality is judged at the time of death. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva. What you remember at the time of death, that you will attain at the next life. You're not going to die anytime soon. Why are you taking up to spirituality so fast? And to them, I say that, do we know when we're going to die? Any moment. We just had someone at our center he was sleeping, had a heart attack, passed away. He's less than 40, less than the age of 40. We're all young people here, but that's scary to think about. What would happen? So proximity to death is not age. Age is just proximity to death, but who is young, who is old, who knows? Who knows what is happening? So that's why I took to it. But you shouldn't be that. These are two unhealthy kind of thought processes. I need to be completely pure before I start my process. Or I need to do as much material things before I start. They fall into the same fallacy as this guy. This is my favorite guy. I'll show you this guy. You see what this guy's doing? He's trying to mop up the ocean. See, he's doing that. Takes the mop, pushes it, and he tries again. Will this person be successful? Why will he not be successful? Krishna, why will he not be successful?
The ocean is endless.
Yes. And what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do when he fills up that bucket?
Empty it out.
Empty it out where? Into the ocean. So same way is that if our desires keep coming and if we keep fulfilling them, actually desires will never stop. If I tell you right now that if I gave you $1 billion or any number, make any number up, if I give you an unlimited amount of dollars under the stipulation that you will be happy for the rest of your life, will you take that money? Is that even a possibility? Maybe not. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. But you must ask, why are the ultra rich and the ultra famous, why are they not the happiest people in the world? Why are some of them committing suicide? Why are some of them taking shelter of hardcore drugs and kind of forgetting themselves and taking intoxication and alcohol? Why does this happen? Is that, if you're trying to, sorry, this is distracting. So is it the happiest people are the richest? Are the happiest people the most famous? Are the happiest people the give me something? Are the happiest people the smartest? We'll talk about this.
The luckiest?
The luckiest? Are they just lucky people? So what is happiness? So anyway, if you keep trying to gratify this desire, it's kind of like this. So at some point you have to pause and you have to think, what is that gratification I'm actually trying to do? So Bhagavad-gita is a very nice book. It dials into who are we, where are we going, and how to get there. How to get there. It's like a GPS. You know a GPS? If you go on a wrong route, it has course correction. It'll take you to your right destination. There's an old Chinese saying, whether you're a queen, a king, or a pawn, all the pieces will end up in the box. So it's kind of like a grave. Like I had a friend. He's one of my teachers actually. He was saying something that one time they were going to a funeral program. They were going to do he's also a monk. He was doing the final rites at a funeral, and then they were driving to this graveyard. And they get to the graveyard, and the GPS said, "You have reached your final destination." They're like, "Whoa, whoa!" So it kind of ends there. So Gita has a way of recalculating and directing where your life would go in a very effective way. So this book has such a depth of devotion, and when we take to the study of this book, we're going to be discussing about why we should study this book, a little bit about the book, a little bit sneak peek of the book, and then how we can all get involved and study together. So let's dive into what actually the Gita is. Many people talk about it. They quote the Gita here, they quote the Gita there, but how many of us have actually read it? Wow. Round of applause for those who have read the Gita. So amazing if you actually read the Gita, because it's a work that has intrigued many minds, many great minds for thousands of years, and still people don't know the essence of it. So interesting. So the Gita has an outer dialogue, and the outer dialogue, there's a king named Dhritarashtra. Now that's a funny name. So isn't it? Imagine what's your baby's name? Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra was a blind king, and the blind king. There's a lot of Mahabharata. Gita is only this Gita. This is the Bhagavad-gita. It has 700 verses, and it's part of one chapter of a bigger book called Mahabharata. And can you guess how many verses Mahabharata has? 18,000 more. 100,000 verses. This book is 700. So imagine the bigger book that it's a part of is 100,000. So basically we're starting, this is the introduction. Chapter 1 is the Bhagavad Gita starts with Dhritarashtra Uvacha. And it says Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samavyeta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra, this king, is asking his personal servant, Sanjaya, and this is Sanjaya, and he's asking, what happened on this battlefield? What happened to my sons, the Kauravas? And what happened to to the other side, the Pandavas? The Pandavas, you have to think there are two sides in this war. There was one side which was the Kauravas, and one side which were the Pandavas. I don't want to lose your attention with the names. So you just have to know Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. And Dhritarashtra was asking, what are the events that happened on this battlefield? That was the beginning question. What are the events? Who are the people that was happening? And the final conclusion of Sanjaya, at the end of the Bhagavad-gita, he says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara Tatra Shirva Jayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Sanjaya says to Dhritarashtra, actually his son, Dhritarashtra's son, was the antagonist, you could say, or was the person on the opposite side of Krishna. And Sanjaya said at the end of the Gita, wherever there is Krishna and wherever there's Arjuna, there will always be victory. So he's basically telling his Dhritarashtra, yeah, your son failed. Your son failed the exam. So, in other words, wherever there's spirituality, there will always be success. So this is the outer dialogue of the Bhagavad Gita. Think of it like a Russian nesting doll. Have you seen a Russian nesting doll? They have one big doll, and then there's a smaller doll, then there's a smaller doll, then there's a smaller doll. So this has two dolls. There's this outer dialogue, and then there's the inner dialogue. The point to be noted is Dhritarashtra was not focused on anything except people and events. He wasn't focused on anything else. Now compare that to the inner dialogue. The inner dialogue, Arjuna's question in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 8, he starts asking, Krishna, I do not understand what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to fight my own family? What kind of kingdom can I win when the kingdom I win is watered with the blood of my own relatives? What kind of kingdom is that? So, what is my purpose? What is my dharma? Anybody heard this word dharma? What does dharma mean? Go ahead.
Dharma is like the inner being of your soul, like your karma.
Inner being. That's great. What does dharma mean? Duty. Most commonly translated. Dharma. Any other guesses?
Purpose in this life.
Purpose. What is my purpose? And it's actually not just on an external level purpose. If you think about what the word dharma means, dharma, if you can say religion, you can say duty, you can say purpose. But one definition of dharma that really struck me once is that Prabhupada, the person who translated and commented upon this version of the Gita, he says dharma is something that cannot be separated from you. You can never be separated from your dharma, not even for a moment. You can try to act outside of your dharma, but what is your natural position? That is dharma. So what is your natural position? And Arjuna asks this, what is my dharma? What is my natural position? And Krishna, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he reveals what Arjuna's natural position is. And so this is the inner dialogue of this whole thing. There's the outer dialogue. Dhritarashtra is talking about people and events. And Krishna and Arjuna are talking about what is the goal of life? What is purpose? What am I here for? One thing is you can keep in mind is small minds discuss people. Average minds discuss events. But great minds discuss wisdom. And that's the difference between Dhritarashtra and Arjuna. All of us have this opportunity when we go out. We have this thing called free will. I hope we all have it. That I hope nobody's being forced in here. Blink twice if you're being forced. Stop it. So we all have this thing called free will, and I know Ryan and Maria's bringing you here. I know, dragging you here. So we all have this thing called free will. And we all have this opportunity to see what is our world going to look like. I mean, we all had to make decisions that made it either good or bad decisions. And decisions that may have not even been our choice. Maybe the body that we're given. Maybe the social economic situation that we're in. But we all have choices about what we want to hear. What we want to discuss. And you want to discuss things. And I said small minds discuss people. Average minds discuss events, and great minds think about wisdom. Small minds, what are some people that we can be discussing? Did you know that this person got divorced to this person? This celebrity had this baby with this person. And and so much gossip. You can go and next time you're at the supermarket, just look at the magazines. This person's having an affair with this person. My question is, are you part of the affair? What do you have to do with this? What does it affect your life? That this celebrity was made a mean look at one time, and we're thinking these newspapers and these magazines are the epitomes of truth, and they will never publish any falsehoods like these magazines. They're only looking for your attention. That is what makes them money. So, and then we start talking about events. Did you hear about this event, that event? Did you hear about this is going on in this part of the world? That is going on. We discussed this in the darshan room. Anybody was here for the darshan room on Sunday? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we discussed this about the darshan room. I'm kind of doing a double header. I hope I don't double dip. So we discussed about events. What do these things have in common with me, and what can I actually do to help this situation in this other part of the world? In factually minimal, if there's like a war going on, what can I do to affect the situation? I can make awareness, I can give some money, but factually, can I go out there with a gun and go and help them? Not New York, I can't go help them, but if you rise above these two things that I'm going to discuss, only all he said, she said, and I'm going to discuss about what's going on here and there, you rise to the level of wisdom. If you rise to the level of wisdom, people will actually be like, they'll be surprised when you talk to them and you're like giving them some wisdom. They're like, whoa, this is kind of not normal. We're supposed to be talking about each other, but you're talking about wisdom? Anybody had that experience? When you try to talk about philosophical things, you're like, this is not how you're supposed to be. Be like me. So this is the inner dialogue of Gita. So Gita is not just a philosophy. It's not just knowledge or some thoughts about the world, but it's a transformative book that with wisdom that has to be applied so it can be understood fully. Just how Dhritarashtra, the blind king, heard the whole Gita, but his heart wasn't transformed because he was only focused on events and people. But Arjuna heard the whole Gita, but his heart was completely transformed. This book can be read on many levels. You could have just read the Gita cover to cover, and many people read the Gita cover to cover. But are they actually going for transformation, or are they trying to get something else? So people think such a philosophical book such as Gita from a different language, When's the last time you read a book from another language outside the Gita? Anybody read anything?
The Alchemist. The Alchemist.
Alchemist. I remember I had to read the Iliad and Homer and Iliad and the Odyssey, and that was a long book. And Mahabharata was someone was saying that if you take the Iliad and the Odyssey together, Mahabharata is like 10 times longer than these two books. And Iliad and the Odyssey are huge. So we start to think that these Sanskrit texts that have been translated to English, thank God, that you need a lot of head knowledge. And let's think about the head for a moment. The head is actually a cool place. So you can't live with without two things in your body. I used to make this rhetorical question. I used to give a class to kids, and then someone said, you can't live without your hands and your legs. And then but the correct answer is the brain and the heart. So that's when I stopped making it rhetorical. I just kept making it rhetorical. So the head, it's so amazing that from the day you're born to the day you die, your head is constantly working and your heart's constantly beating. So amazing. And the head has such a way of protecting itself it has your skull, and it has this really delicate brain that's delegating all this blood and everything. Like recently I got a cut on my head, and it just immediately, just like magic, it just started to scab. And I'm like, wow, I didn't have to tell my body, okay, now it's time to scab. It just automatically scabbed. That's so cool. So the head is very important. Now this guy has a head, and and you could say, Mr. Messi is very good with his head, right? You'd say he can, from a ball that's coming so many, like 10 miles, 50 miles an hour, he can direct it towards a goal. That's pretty good use of the head, right? And this lady is also very good with her head, right? You could say she's good with her head. She can balance all those putts. So amazing. This guy was also good with his head. Now, this guy had a lot of information, had a PhD, and he did a lot of doctoral thesis, did a lot of good things actually. And he used to study the Gita, So these are all people with good heads, but having a good head the solution to understanding the Gita? Anybody have thoughts on this? Yes, Janti.
Yes and no.
Explain.
I think intelligence is an aspect of that resides in the head, and I think it takes intelligence to even open it up to want to inquire. And I think no, because I think once you start practicing the contents, you understand that the head and the heart have to be in alignment with the goal in mind.
Yeah. I think that's very, very significant, is that you can have head knowledge, but if your heart is not there, then actually it just remains knowledge. And according to the previous teachers who have studied this book, they don't consider that as actually knowing the Gita. People who have memorized the Gita, like all 700 verses, back and forth. I know people who can say the verses forwards and backwards. That's crazy, right? I can't even say the alphabet backwards. I was watching this drunk drivers, and they get pulled over. I was watching on YouTube, and then the cop was like, say the alphabet forwards, and then the guy was like, say the alphabet backwards. I'm like, even if I was sober, I can't tell them back. Anybody can do the alphabet backwards? No. CYX. Yeah, I can't. I can't. That's as far as I can get. But Krishna is actually hinting at this principle very, very carefully. He's saying in chapter 4, text 3, this knowledge is confidential. He's saying, Sa evayam maya taidya yoga prokta puratana bhakto si me sakha cheti rahasyam hya etad uttamam. Rahasya means confidential. It means secret. It means that it's not openly available. Now wait a second. We distribute Gita for $5 upstairs. You can get a Gita at home. We distribute millions of versions. You can go on Amazon, get a version. Cyber Monday, there may be a deal also. You can get a Kindle version. You can get a deluxe version, a small version, a pocket version. I'm just telling you versus Gita for free here. Why is Krishna saying this? That this knowledge is confidential. The knowledge seems to be available to everybody for free. Talk to any Hare Krishna, they'll talk your ear off about the Bhagavad-gita. Robert?
It's one thing to read it, it's another thing to experience it.
That's actually really nice. What do you mean by experience it?
You can get all of the wisdom that you'll ever need from reading the Gita, but that doesn't mean that you'll ever experience that wisdom.
Am I putting it into practice? This is actually thank you, Robert. This is actually the way that our previous teachers, the previous great teachers have learned, is that how am I going to put this into practice? This is what is called knowledge. Knowledge is not just memorizing and just spitting out information into the world, but it's actually how am I going to put this into effect? And I have the kind of the ancient way of kind of realizing knowledge according to the Vedic arts. Can I share this with you? Is this okay? Yes? I need a verbal yes before I share secret knowledge. It's like an airplane, when you sit in those emergency seats. I need a verbal yes. Because it's confidential, it's secret. Don't tell it seems like Krishna is saying, don't tell anybody, but tell everybody. So Krishna saying that study is, the Sanskrit word is svadhyaya. That's only the first level of absorption and study. But later on, what you actually have to do is you have to have this thing called sangha. That's kind of what we're all doing here right now. Sangha means company with like-minded people. And you need to actually have that, because you can never make, spiritual knowledge is not understood in isolation. You can never, like if you, like let's say you, and that's actually common for a lot of practices these days. If you go, if let's say something happens to Azim, as some medical thing, and we're all crying, goes to the surgeon table, then his surgeon has a knife, about to cut his stomach open. And then Azim is like, oh, I want to get to know this doctor. And then he's like, oh, where'd you go to school? And then the doctor says, oh, Azim, thank you for asking. I actually didn't go to school, but I read the book on it. So just reading by yourself is not complete knowledge. You need people to bounce things off of. Am I understanding this properly? Am I really getting it the way that it should be applied? So this is why we have sangha. The next is sadhana. Sadhana means a daily spiritual practice. Spiritual knowledge grows from the heart. And the spirit, if it's growing from the heart, and spiritual knowledge is free from envy, greed, lust, material desire, and it's free from all types of violence, aggression, and harshness to others. And it's free from hypocrisy. But how do you, such a pure thing as such a spiritual knowledge, how can it enter into our hearts, which is full of these things? So by gradual spiritual practice on a daily basis, which is called sadhana, we actually purify our hearts to invite knowledge to come and sit in our hearts. And sadhana can look different for different people. So the sadhana we practice is every day we chant Krishna's names. We have these little beads. We chant this mantra, and we follow some basic rules and regulations. And that keeps us sober and fortified for our mental and our intelligence and our heart to be open to receive this great knowledge. Does that make sense for everybody? Is it okay? Now, there's seva. You may actually ask, where do I have time for all of this? I thought I was just going to buy a book and read it, and that's enough. But where do I have time for all of this? I have family, I have kids, I have a job, I have responsibilities. But actually, don't worry, all these things can be seamlessly integrated into your lives. It can be very seamlessly. And if you get good, that's why it's a practice. It's not a perfection. Because when you are doing this practice, it's like second nature almost when you get into this. Seva means service. Why is it? Okay, I'll just throw it out there. Maybe we can get somebody new to kind of think about it. Why do I need service to understand a book? Why do I need seva? Anybody have any thoughts?
Well, service helps to cleanse.
Yes.
It helps to start to open up a little bit. If you don't do any service, you're not going to understand the study or the reading of the book.
Yeah, it's just a book. It's anybody want to bounce off that? Why do I need service? Yeah.
I guess you could say just studying is almost selfish in a way. Like you need to use what you learn for something.
Yes. You need to engage it somehow.
Yeah.
Great. That's great. Rak, you want to say something?
It's like practicing what you're studying.
Yes. Practice whatever you've learned, put into practice. J something. Zui, yeah.
I was just gonna say that it's just like what he said, that you want to experience the wisdom, so seva is a way to experience the wisdom that we are getting.
Yeah, it's like going to a test. Like every time I kind of come to the temple and kind of practice my and I do some service and I I cut a potato, you know. A lot of Bia Monkers here. I love all our Bia Monkers. So when we were doing that, we have a program called Be a Monk where you can come and stay in the temple and you can kind of live the monk life like me and Janaki. So it's a really cool program. You're welcome to join. Next one's in January, Martin Luther King Day weekend. We just confirmed it. But when I'm peeling a potato, when I'm cooking breakfast, you know, I'm like, my reading of Gita yesterday, how did that affect me peeling this potato? Am I spiritualizing this peeling of potato, or am I actually just peeling a potato? Am I putting into practice this spirituality? Because you'll often see spirituality is more than a physical thing. It's a shift of consciousness. Right.
I was going to say it promotes humility because you're doing something for someone other than yourself.
Okay, extra prashadam for Ryan. That's what I was thinking. Is that what happens to people who study a lot? Julie, you have a lot of. She's a scientist, very very intelligent lady. You have a lot of people who are very intelligent, right? Who you work around. What happens when you gain a lot of knowledge? What happens to your character?
Well, definitely you understand how to act in a certain situation, and you have like a lot of knowledge to understand how to do stuff and things like that.
That's great.
You're not humble anymore.
Ego comes and not humble. That's sometimes what happens is that when we gain a lot of knowledge, like a scientist, I knew a guy who started like reading Gita. I read the Bhagavatam, read 18,000. He was like about to read the Mahabharata to 100,000. He was just so puffed up. He was like, I don't want to clean. Every time he comes to temple, I don't want to serve. I want to be served. But what happened is that he fizzled out, and he wasn't able to keep steady in this practice. And he actually got addicted to some pretty hard things, you know. That's what happens when you have a heart that's not soft with humility. When Krishna is actually is saying this, that you need to be humble, because once you say that I am not humble, when you're humble, you say that Krishna is so great, I am part of Krishna, so I am also significant, but I am only a part of him, of Krishna. But if you start saying that I'm not humble, then I'm the man. I'm sitting on the big blue chair. I got my laptop in front of me, and I can give a class. I can speak so many like really, really cool Sanskrit things. But actually, all the people I'm speaking to, just stupid people. All stupid people. They don't know anything. They just come and eat lunch. They eat dinner every week. This is what happens when you get infected with pride. But actually, the way you do it with humility is that even if you're in a place of respect or position, is that, okay, I'm sitting on a big blue chair. I'm speaking to all of you. I've been given this great opportunity. But I actually look at it as a different way. Is that I look at it as a way of serving everybody. This is a service that I can present what Krishna is telling me, presenting in the Gita. So this is one way of humility. So seva, it's kind of like the door that unlocks everything. You can do all these three things, but if you don't do seva, it just stays in the head. It just stays in the head. So always engage in service. And that's why this program is so amazing, this Tuesday program, is because you're doing all four just by sitting here. You're studying, we're learning verses from the Gita, you're with company, we did kirtan, which is one of our practices. And then afterwards, we have cleaning up, you can help serve, you can do so many things. And also by giving your hard-earned money, by putting in the box, that helps it keep going. So you're serving the other people in future times that comes, and you can serve them also. That's great. So the Gita is learned in a very, very special way. I'm almost done. Only two more things I have to say. It's learned in a very, very special way. It's not linear like this. This is actually how material knowledge is learned. I looked up a picture of a staircase. So this is not from the Gita. So, and they do talk about yoga ladder. But so material knowledge is like, okay, kindergarten, first grade, skip a few, master's, PhD, postdoc, and you get to the top. Then you go to postdoc research, and you go and you keep researching. Then you get tenure and so many things, and that's it. You're just top of the field. Knowledge, and if you gain more and more knowledge, and if you apply this kind of, if you use this method for the Gita, it's not going to work, because when you're studying the Gita, it's not like we have unlimited amount of books that we read. We choose 4 books that we read, like as monks. We don't read like 1,000 books. But what happens is that you just gain knowledge, but you're not applying it. Knowledge becomes very superficial. It just becomes very superficial. How does it become superficial if I don't apply the knowledge? Ryan?
Well, then it's just facts in your head.
It's just facts. There's two ways to get blinded. Anybody know this? 2 ways to get blinded. One is that it's too dark. What is the other way to get blinded? It's too bright. So you're blinded by, so there's 2 types of people. People who have no knowledge and they're just blind. And there's people who have way too much knowledge and they don't know how to act upon. And they're just frozen and they're not acting. Because this philosophy is not just a philosophy. This philosophy is meant to be interacted with. It's an interaction. So more unfortunate than being blind is being born with sight but having no vision. This is actually the most unfortunate. But spirituality, how we look at spiritual knowledge, is like this. You go around and around the spiral staircase until you get to the essence. We go deep into what we're doing. When we're chanting, we chant the same mantra. We don't chant many more mantras. But the same mantra, rather than going horizontally by picking up more and more spiritual practices, why don't you pick one thing and go deep into it? This is so amazing. But until you get to that essence, you have to read it in a special way. And that's why we have these programs. That's why we have a temple. We invite all of you to come here. We're really happy to have you, because it's a benefit for you and it's a benefit for us. Because it, like, factually speaking, I'll just speak openly here. When I started the service of the Tuesday program, and this was happening way before me, but when I started having this Tuesday program, I started having way more profound realizations in my spiritual life by just being able to serve all of you, by preparing the dinners, by cleaning the room, by setting up the TV, by doing the kirtan. I started having way more fun in my spiritual life than just by being by myself and doing spirituality. So it's a benefit for everybody. It's a win-win situation, as they say. So the Gita, and this is my last point, the Gita is a book that we carry. You know, it's not just like a religious book. It's not a book that it's only for the Hindus. It's not people think it's the Bible of the Hindus, some people say. But it's not that. It's not just a philosophical book. Oh, it has some really great ideas about the world and I like some opinions of the Gita. But it's a spiritual connection, definitely. But when someone comes up to me on the street, what is the Bhagavad-gita all about? I tell them Bhagavad-gita is a life companion. It accompanies me wherever I am at in my life. It's like a companion. Like what's an example of a best friend? You guys all have best friends? Yeah, some good friends. I say that I challenge you. I challenge that you all have a best friend that you may not even recognize. Your phone. Who's the first person you talk to in the morning? Your phone. Who's the last person you see at night? Your phone. Who wakes you up in the morning? Honey, wake up. Beep, 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 beep. Your phone, you know? So your phone is like your companion. But the Bhagavad Gita, I think, is a better companion because it constantly stays with me and it's able to decode life wherever I'm at. Because Arjuna is like the human connection. He's asking these things that are, it's not on a surface level, like Krishna, how do I change a tire? How do I change my oil? But Arjuna is asking about things that are more substantial. About what are we all doing here? Am I just an Indian body, white body, blue body, black body, the skinny, straight, fat? What, am I just this thing? Or am I actually here for a bigger purpose? What is my dharma? Who am I? What am I doing here? These are the actual answers given by Gita. And it's not an answer like I'm just gonna, okay, let's say Oyen asked me, what is the goal of life? Oh yeah, turn to page 47, it's there, Krishna says the goal of life is blah, blah, blah. It may be there, it may be put like that, but this knowledge is rahasya. It's confidential. So unless you apply these 4 things, you'll hear it. It'll come in your ear. It'll stick in your mind, but it won't go to the heart. So that's a little bit about the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to make a quick announcement that if you are interested in reading the Gita with a group, with people, like-minded people, and you're ready to make a commitment that a certain time every week, we do have a new program coming that we're studying the Bhagavad Gita with this other book called Gita 3. Anybody who was here for Keshav Swami when he came here? Keshav Swami is like a big, tall, 7-foot monk. Big orange stick. No, he has a big orange stick. He's not a big orange stick. So, he wrote this very good book. It's called the Gita 3. It's like a guide to the Gita with like exercises and like little like snippets. And it's like really, really cool. You can check it out. I have some extra copies if you want. But we're starting a reading group if you'd like to join by the pushing of Maria. She's been asking since day one, I want to start a reading group, and it took me like 6 months to figure this out. But every Thursday at 8 to 9 on Zoom. It's completely free. We have an online book as well. If you'd like to join, you're more than welcome. But first, before I delve more into deep in that, anybody have any questions over the class or thoughts or comments or rejections or arguments or... Yes, Robert.
Can you talk about one of the realizations you had after you started the Tuesday program?
Yeah. A realization after the Tuesday program. So what happens every Tuesday is, as monks, we go to bed very early. Connor knows. He's my... We stay in the same room. Is that I try, Connor. I try to sleep as early as I can. We monks love to sleep early. Like I know some people go to bed at like 7:30, 8, and we have these programs and it's really good to bring all of us. You guys are working so hard during the week and relax, and so we come put these programs on. What I was noticing is that I'm going to bed really late on Tuesday nights. I'm going to bed at like 10:30, 11, 11:30, midnight, and then, but that's, you'd think that's not really a problem. But as monks, we have a mandatory awakening at 4 a.m. in the morning. We all have to wake up. There's no like, oh, I'm feeling too tired. We all have to wake up. So my next day, Wednesday, is like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I was just talking about that with one devotee. I'm like, how do I make this sustainable? And then he was saying that the other days of the week, you kind of go to bed early, go to bed at 8, 8:30, 9. But on the days that you have to meet people and talk to people, give everything. Give whatever you have. Because you're like a pot, because when you're in the temple, you gain a lot of spiritual knowledge, spiritual realization. But when new people come, you guys are all people who have come here before, so that's why I'm sharing kind of nonchalantly, is that when people come in, they're kind of empty. They have no, they're coming for spiritual realization. They're asking, can you give me something? Not that I'm so puffed up or elevated that I have something, but he said, give what you have. And I just thought that was so amazing, is that people are coming here and they don't know anything about bhakti. But when I give what I have, I can fill them up a little bit more, and then they can go give it to other people. So I just thought that was something that was very special to me. I'm like, okay, 10:30, 11, 12. Don't push me tonight, guys. But I'm like, okay, let me give it all that I have. So that was one of my realizations. Is that okay? Any thoughts? Any questions, thoughts?
I was just reminded, because you started off with that image of the ocean, and then talking about how sometimes when we just have knowledge, we can kind of get blocked by pride, and then we stop receiving. And I was thinking, there's this one story in the very first book that I ever got on Krishna consciousness, called The Science of Self-Realization, and it's about this frog, and he's got a PhD in wellology. It's called Dr. Frog.
Dr. Frog.
And Dr. Frog lives at his well, and this big well, and all the other frogs come to him to get their water. And there's one frog who's very young, and he comes after seeing the ocean. And after he sees the ocean, he's so amazed. And he goes to Dr. Frog and he says, Dr. Frog, you're never gonna believe this. There's a lot of water. And Dr. Frog says, more than this water? More than this well? No. And the frog says, yeah, you can't even see how much water is over there. And Dr. Frog is just like, is it one of my wells? Is it two of my wells? Is it five of my wells? And the more that the little frog is like, no, it's more. It's unlimited water. It's the biggest well you've ever seen. You can't even, there's no end to the well. And this Dr. Frog, he gets so puffed up, saying is it this much? Is it this much? And he just feels like he's kind of getting defeated because he wants to know it all. I think at the end he explodes. All right,
I'll explain. You know how frogs, they kind of have that thing under their neck, and they breathe in, they ribbit, it's like that. So he kept puffing it up to see how much water it is, and he explodes after that. Context. You're relating?
Sorry, yeah. Anyways, it just reminded me of that, and how important it is to when you do that selfless service, when you do it outside of yourself, that knowledge, that's how it becomes wisdom. And otherwise, it blocks us. That pride blocks us, and we explode.
Yeah, you made a good point about selfless service. Service, we all do service. We had this. That's one of our dharmas, is that we're all service. We all do service, if we like it or not. You go to your boss, you perform 8 hours of service, and he does you a service by keeping your paycheck intact, and he pays you. And you go to your teacher, you learn some things, and then you come back and you provide service by sitting in class. He provides you a good grade, whether it's an A or an F, based on how much service you've rendered in his class. And then so we all like to do service. But what is selfless service? Anybody have a definition for selfless service?
Not being attached.
Not being attached. Anything else?
You don't expect anything in return.
I don't expect anything in return. I have no attachments, and I don't want anything for me. I want completely for the other person. You know what our great teachers before have said? What is the closest thing to selfless service in this world? It's the relationship between the mother and a baby. A mother has this baby, and this baby, as cute as this baby wants to do, baby does not make economic sense. It constantly wants food, it constantly poops, and it constantly cries, but you won't see a ROI, a return on investment in a baby until much later, So anyway, but this mother, what does she do? She's like, okay, baby, you're not it. You're just not working out. And he just shakes the hand and runs. I don't want you. The mother constantly takes care of the baby, crying at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. My mother was just here for Thanksgiving, and she was telling all the other monks, all my my hilarious baby pastime. all my things that I would cry at 3 a.m. in the morning. She'd have to wake up and always take care of me. And then even if the babies have to pass stool and do something, she cleans it up. No questions asked. And what does the mother get in return? Absolutely nothing. That is selfless. That is, I have no I don't want any return. I completely love this baby, and that is why I'm serving it. This is selfless. So that's the closest thing. Tranti.
I wanted to expound on that. I've meditated on that, and actually, even before the baby's born, the mother is serving the child, even not knowing who it is. Like, the baby takes all the nutrients, and I was like, wow, okay, that's what they mean by selfless, because, one can serve their husband because they know who that is. Like, okay, the husband's acting great, okay, I can cook for him, I'll do this, or, oh, the dog, okay, I'm going to serve the dog because I like the dog. But when you have no concept of who you're serving like a mother, that's really selfless. Like, you just have faith that this is my service, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, wow, it's kind of inconceivable.
And so many things that the mother has to go through, like stomach aches and like cravings and nauseous. It's like so much stuff. We have this word tapasya. Tapasya means austerity. Mother goes for 9 months of austerity. Like, people are like, yogis used to do austerity for like a month or 2 months. Imagine 9 months of austerity of this thing growing in your stomach. That's crazy. Thankful we're men, right? A lot of pain, Anyway, does anybody have any final thoughts? Questions? Okay. Yes.
What was it like for your family taking spirituality so young?
Oh. They introduced it to me, but I kind of grew up with spirituality, always in the house. But when I joined as a monk, after I basically, when I found spirituality first when I was 12, I was like, oh, I just need to move into like a monastery, at 12. Imagine a 12-year-old comes, Mom, I just want to move into a monastery. So my mom was like, what? No. She said, present me with 2 degrees. So I presented her with to her for her satisfaction. I presented her a high school degree and a college degree in economics. And then my mom gave her a blessing. Okay, now you can join a monastery. So literally the day, like a couple days after I graduated college, I just moved in. I just moved in. I just moved into the ashram. And they just came and visited. They're super happy. It was kind of a shift for them also, because it's not a traditional career path, joining an ashram, but it's they were seeing that I was making an impact, and I felt like I was making an impact wherever I'm doing, and I was content with my choices. So I think that's the greatest thing that a parent can want for a child, satisfaction in career, satisfaction in all aspects of their life. So my parents were happy, and I hope they're happy. Maybe next Thanksgiving my parents can come and they can give a class about Hadai's failures. What not to do. Okay. I'd like to thank everybody there.